Hello, greetings, and of course, g'day, mate, and welcome to Nerd's Paradise. I am the Hound. Of course, you can call me Hound or Connor, and I am joined by the illustrious, the near royalty among Adelaide toy and comic book collectors. It's Brett Owen. How you doing, Brett?
I wouldn't go royalty, but they're nice to have me on, Connor. Thanks for inviting me along.
Oh, thanks for taking the invite. I'm not gonna lie, I'm quite excited to get into this because there's a few things about you and about the toy fair that I know and a few things that I don't. So I guess we should probably just get started talking about the toy fair because I think it's the thing that a lot of people who don't know you on a more personal level probably know you for, the Adelaide Comic and Toy Fair. How many years has it been running for?
It started in 2015, so what's that, 8 years now? Yeah, first one 8 years ago. So yeah, it's grown a bit since then.
A little. It's grown just a little. I mean, it's seen a significant climb in just numbers of people who attend it. So it's insane.
Yeah, well, the original one, it was just meant to be, in the back of where I used to work, with some few friends, and yeah, then it grew from there. A few more people wanted to come, and I decided maybe I should open this to the public. And after 2 weeks of advertising on Facebook, and yeah, 400 people showed up to the first one. So
I wish I could advertise anything for 2 weeks and more than 10 people showed up. That would be amazing. That's
pretty crazy for a start.
Yeah, for a starter, definitely. So, like, I'm going to be honest, right? Every year so far, every time the toy fair, because it runs about twice a year, every single toy fair creeps up on me. Like, out of nowhere, it's just like, oh, wow, it's October, like, next month. I got to make sure I'm saving. Do these toy fairs sneak up on you like it does for, like, me and, like, guys like Sam who just go, like, oh, that's right, it's next month?
Well, believe it or not, I plan them, like, probably about 18 months in advance. So I haven't started up to all. I've planned a bit of October next year, but April next year's a lot of that's done, and it's purely like I don't want to just do everything kind of last minute. I like to book things in and make sure we've got everything so there's nothing falls through. So yeah, this one I started organising pretty much after the first St. Clair one. So I realised, well, this is the venue I'm going to stay in for a while. So book the date.
Yeah, get yourself in there as soon as you can. Like, make sure that you're all set for like a few years in advance.
But yeah, so I'll start organising then, and obviously, the fairs are somewhat a carbon copy of the previous one. I just like to work out what I can, make better and improve on, and I think that's where it kind of sneaks up. Like, I'm like, okay, I might do this, and you start adding extra things, and it kind of drags out. And then as I announce it and start taking bookings, and the time every night you're there for a few hours doing stuff, and then you're like, shit, it's like 2-3 weeks away, and I've got to do it all on. So it's been pretty hectic. But yeah, in recent years, like Sans from Nerd's Paradise, he's come on. He helps me with a lot of the social media stuff. And my partner Sarah, she helps with a lot of things. So that's kind of makes it so it's a bit easier and doesn't quite sneak up on me.
How much do you divvy up between yourself and Sarah? Because she works pretty hard while especially on the day. Like, she's definitely carrying quite a bit of the. How much would you say that you sort of like 50, 60, 40, 60, 50, 50, 80, 20? Like, how much would you think?
Oh, I don't know. I think with this fair, especially, Sarah's done a lot more. I used to do majority of the bookings, like talk with everyone there, and she'd do a bit more of the logistical stuff, the book, like organising the tables and the venue and everything like that. And then obviously on the day before setting up, she's there non-stop. And during the day and then the following day packing up and whatnot. But with the fair we're having now, because she's been working from home, like COVID kind of hit in, and she works a lot more from home. She'll get a bit more time where she can go on the computer and respond to a few emails, and that kind of breaks it up so that she used to hate when I get home from work, say hello, and then sit on the computer until 11 o'clock at night. So now we kind of, share the load. So probably, around the 50-50 with a lot of stuff now. So it's actually, she's probably making it a lot easier, a lot less stressful, and gives me the opportunity to kind of streamline things a bit more and focus on things to improve and add to the fair. Deal with people a lot more like independently instead of kind of, it's given me a lot more time. And the same with Sam, helping
with the social media stuff.
With the social media stuff, that was something that consumed a lot of my time, and Sam being so good at it as well, it's improved dramatically what I could do.
It's shocking how much like social media stuff, like even just trying to do even a little bit for the Nerds Paradise channel, and with our podcast and everything, it's shocking how much that social media can actually take up, like as far as time consumption.
It's pretty crazy. Like a computer here, and if you open it, I've got, because it's not just like I've got Instagram open, I've got the attendees, what's happening there. I do the website, so it's constant updates with the website. That never ends.
And when you do a major update, obviously you have to
emails.
Do an update for like all the different social media platforms too. Like you can't just put it on the website. Like if you gotta make sure everyone sees it. So Facebook, Instagram. Do you have a Twitter by any chance, or is it just Facebook and Instagram?
There is a Twitter, but I don't know. I could use it if you found it. It's there. I think the last tweet's about 3 years old. So
well, I mean, obviously you have to get on your social media guy about that. Sam, what are you doing?
I know, right, Sam? But so he looks after the Instagram, which has been good. I do a lot of the Facebook stuff. We get a lot of messages and comments through there, so I have to reply through that. But it's been good to be able to have Sarah help me, which I haven't had in the past. So my previous job was good because I could sit there at lunchtime for an hour and respond to emails and do messages and stuff like that. But she definitely helps a lot, and as to Sam, so it's very much appreciated with all that. So it's really good.
It's a lot of work for what is essentially 6 hours of people walking around a gym. But like there's nothing can compare to these toy fairs. I think they're the best conventions type deals that I've been to. I've been to a few Comic-Cons, I've been to a few Supernovas, and I think a big part of that, especially in recent years, has been the location. St. Clair's. How did you snag such because there are people who walk up to the stall and go, it's so open, it's so bright, it's such good natural lighting, and it's just you don't feel crushed or condensed. The wave of people never feels like it's going to kick you over. Like, how did you get such a prime location?
Well, it was just a matter of need. So the first venue I had was we'll stick on St. Clair. So St. Clair, because I just kept growing and growing and growing, I needed somewhere new. I was looking at other places, like you can go to the showgrounds, but showgrounds obviously expensive. There's a lot more different things there, and I couldn't, because I like to keep it a community kind of base, so that way, the admission is cheap. The tables that vendors hire are practically nothing compared to what you would pay somewhere else. And because I want it to have so that the little guy like you or me, someone that doesn't have a shop or an eBay store or something like that, can just go, hey, we've got some Transformers and some comics and some other action figures. I want a table, I'm going to set up and sell some stuff. So that's why I think trying to find a big venue that was cheap, St. Clair, works really well, because like you said, they've got everything you need. Like it's big, it's bright. Like we have the whole wall is windows, so that's why I put the Lego exhibition there, just to get them so they get daylight as well as light from them.
The Lego exhibition is amazing, by the way. Like it's such a cool little thing. If you haven't been to a toy fair, there is a portion. Everything is like tables upon tables, like rows of people selling like toys and comics, and even like an artist's alley, which we can talk about a bit more in a bit if you want. The artist's alley, I think it's really cool that we get some local people in there sometimes. But we have like this sort of this like horseshoe shape, and it's just all these really cool, big, massive Lego builds. How did that start? Like, when did that start, and how did you get people coming and going like, "Hey, we want to display all these Lego builds"?
So obviously, like having the fair, I wanted it to be a few more things for people to see. Like I talk to local clubs and stuff like that, and say, hey, let's get the community involved, and wanted to see if some in there. And I met some of the people from the local, like the Southern Bricks Lego user group, which is the official Lego group for South Australia. And I said, hey, do you guys want to? Oh, you can have some space. I'll set it up. Won't cost you anything. And just put a few Lego sets up that you've built, and show the world what you've made at home. And so, yeah, so started off as just a few little things, and I gave them some space. And then, I said, well, whoever come along, tell me how much space you need. And I started getting bigger and bigger to what it was at Martin. There was a kind of small one, the previous venue. But then, yeah, St. Clair just went nuts. Huge there. They run Brixpo. People from Adelaide would know the Lego exhibition Brixpo. So they're the ones that organise that. So I said, hey, yep, put some stuff out. It can be a preview. You can sell tickets to Brixpo and advertise that, because that's in, I think it's the first week of July or something. So my fair being the end of April, it's kind of a good setup, whatever that is, 2 months before the event, so they can kind of help promote that. And they come, they can test stuff that they're going to show at Brixpo, and yeah, they love it. Like we've got a private chat where everyone puts up what they're going to bring, and they work out where the tables are and everything like that. So yeah, that's great to have them come along, and they're welcome to come to everything, because like you said, you enjoy it. Kids come along and they enjoy it, and kind of, I don't know.
Oh, it has to be
Another angle is I put the Lego vendors near it.
Yes, right
So,
across from it. Yeah.
So the kids walk past, see all the fantastic Star Wars or whatever Lego, and then they look over the other side and they're like, oh. And then that way the Lego vendors there, they can, while the kids still excited about it, they can keep them excited and tell them what they need. And I guess on the other hand, for that, it's good for the vendors, because they might get some more sales out of it, and it makes their day a bit better as well.
It's one of those things where if you can see what someone with a creative mind who's familiar with Lego and has all these Lego pieces can do, like, it makes you want to go, oh man, I want to build Lego. Like, there's nothing that makes you want to buy and build Lego more than seeing Lego out in the wild and seeing other people's builds. And there's this one gentleman there every year, and hats off to him. I think obviously I think he has some help, and I think it's multiple gentlemen. There is one vendor there, and it's just like, I think 3 tables of just minifigs lined up.
Mm-hmm.
And I cannot imagine how long it takes to set that table up specifically.
Yep. That's Express Collectibles, if you want to look them up on Instagram. He's been coming. I think he missed the first one, but he was at the second one. So he's 7 years in. I think he only missed one because he was going on a family holiday or something. He comes down. He's with the rest of his family, and they're one of the first people to get there to start setting up. And then he'll spend the whole afternoon setting up, and has them all. And they actually come already placed on boards. He gets the boards out of boxes. There's just, like you said, there's just that many. It takes quite a while to set up, but yeah, it's got some interesting minifigs there, so well worth checking out.
Oh, absolutely. Even if you're not into Lego, just seeing the amount that's there and seeing what's there, it's quite fun. So you just mentioned that this gentleman's obviously, he's missed the first toy fair, but obviously that very first toy fair was not open to the public initially. What was that first toy fair even like? Like, give us an idea of what it was, how many people were originally meant to be there, and what it was even like, why did you even do it?
Well, see, I sell comics worked out it's easy to sell them on Facebook. I had, I've collected for years and years and years. I've got a lot of extra ones. And comics are one thing to sell. We take a photo, put them in an envelope and post them off. And then I started having toys and that I wanted to sell. And I'm like, I can't be bothered posting like toys. That's going to
Awkward
take forever
especially.
to do that. Turns out it's turned into a all-round year job trying to sell toys now. And
In an
no,
effort to
it's
reduce your workload, you have only made it worse.
yeah, pretty much. So I was like, all right, we'll get some guys together, and I'd asked my boss. He was obsessed with the Iron Man movies, so I kind of swindled him into letting us use this room we didn't use at the back of my old job. Had a fire exit to get in and out from the car park. So I said, "I will just come in and out through there." And he's like, "Yep, as long as I can come along and find some Iron Man stuff." And I'm like, "Done." And then yeah, kind of started telling people I know, and then a lot of randoms wanted to come. So I was like, "Oh, maybe this is getting too big," and kind of put it out there and decided, yep, we'll have one to the public. It was actually one of Sam's friends. It was the manager of the Dutch club down at Morecambe Lakes, or the events manager, something along those lines. So she, lined it up with her, and like I said, just a little bit on Facebook, no real planning, and yeah, it was about 400 people showed up, and it was like, what the hell? So
because this first Toy Fair was in 2015, wasn't it? So it's kind of like an interesting year, because I feel like that's when things were really, with this kind of pop culture stuff, was really starting to truly pick up, especially with the general public.
well, I think it was kind of, I aimed at everyone, because I thought, well, it's what the motto I've kind of kept is I try to make it community. So I wanted clubs there. I wanted local artists. I thought give them an opportunity. And then I thought we'll get everything there. Instead of making a comic thing, we'll make it toys, make it video games, make it Lego. Because more than likely, if you like video games, you like toys, you like Lego. If you like comics, there's comic toys, there's comic Lego, there's comic video games, and they all kind of flow into one. So you might go there for the comics, but then you leave with, a new, I don't know, like a Green Goblin minifigure or something like that. And so that's what I tried to do with the first fair. I just kind of feelers out, got everyone there. And I think with, word of mouth from them, then that kind of brought those different communities in. And maybe that was the reason it was so many people showed up on such short notice. And yeah, and then, it went from there. So
So you were talking obviously about like comics and toys and video games and Lego, and you've got all these interests, and I imagine that you hold a lot of interest in a lot of these things as well. I'm curious. I want to go back. I want to go back to little Brett, back before you had the luscious beard, back before all of this. Young Brett, what was the first thing that you think really captured your imagination, that kind of sent you down this path of becoming, like a nerd in your adult life?
first of all, I've always had this beard from when I was born.
Oh, okay. Well, that misconception. Sorry. All right, there we go. Was
But
it
thanks
was
for
it the
commenting.
beard?
It's luscious.
Was the hair still there, or was it like beard with no hair
It was
when he
just
came
beard
out?
with no hair. So
That must have been very confusing. He's upside down. No, he's
yeah.
not.
Sorry, what was the question? So
Well,
yeah,
you called onto one thing just so you could make a snarky little. Okay, I see
yeah.
what you. No. So, what was like the first thing, whether it be a cartoon or a book or even some toys, that really captured your imagination and made you go, like, basically set you on this path to where you are now? Still collecting toys and comics as an adult.
So as a kid, like dinosaurs were probably my thing, and that's what I played with when I was a bit younger. But then I also, like any other kid, I was born '83, so as I got older, it was as Ninja Turtles were starting to kick in. So they were the kind of Ninja Turtles, dinosaurs. So I had like Jurassic Park and stuff like that come up. Never really looked at comics, and then I remember I started watching the Spider-Man animated series, the 1994 animated series. And around the same time, the X-Men animated series, mid-90s as well.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, this is wicked, like Cheese TV in the morning. Yeah, it's a good show, favorite show, love it. And then I was at the news agency at Tea Tree Plaza, and it's in the northern suburbs of Adelaide. And then I'm just looking through the video game magazines, which I used to get. And then I saw, oh, hang on, what's that? And there was a Spider-Man comic, and I remember it. And it was a Mark of Cain part 4, I think. So I don't remember it. Yeah, and it was just a Spider-Man comic. Had Scarlet Spider, Cain, and Spider-Man on the front cover fighting. And picked it up, read it. I thought, this is great. And from then on, I wanted to get all the Spider-Man comics. Four titles at the time: Spectacular Web, The Peter Parker, and Amazing. So I started getting them. And it just kind of went from there. Venom, started getting a few X-Men. At the time, there was like about 16,000 X-Men titles. So I kind of got sucked into them. And then it just kind of grew. And obviously, Marvel being a big universe, went into other things like the Avengers and Fantastic Four. And yeah, just kind of went from there. So that was 11-year-old little Brett buying a few comics. Used to get it down at the local Paddy's Market there, and a few
Paddy's
from
Market, okay.
Yeah, so the store Collectible Chaos, probably a few people would have heard of that.
Yeah, I try not to frequent there because there's usually things I want to buy there.
Yeah,
Try to avoid it.
I found it a few years back. My membership card, I'm member number 6. So
Member number
how long ago it
6.
was.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Jeez.
So it's like, yeah, a little piece of paper that's been laminated and like hand drawn on the numbers and stuff. This little thing. Yeah, so it was, I used to get them back then. Yeah, Dad would take me down there on the weekends, and I'd get a few, had collector cards as well. So started getting into the comic collector cards. Yeah, and I think it just went from there. Went through my teen years and kept getting them and getting more comics. Obviously, still have my toys from when I was a kid. So, I still used to pick up a few things every now and then. And then, around 2000, I thought, well, I'm going all in. And I realized, I think this is the smartest move I've ever done with my comics, is, so you've got, say, Spider-Man 500, which was out around early 2000s. Say you started collecting Spider-Man from there, you might collect the current ones onwards, and then you might go back. So you get like 450, 400, and so on backwards. And I've looked at that and I've gone, the comics from the 90s, they're $2 or $3 each. They're always going to be $2 or $3. They're $4 or $5 now, and that's 25 years later. And then I've looked at the comics from the 60s and I'm like, oh, hang on. That's a $30 comic, but now it's a $35 comic. So I actually started collecting from number 100 down. So I started from Spider-Man 100 down, Avengers, Daredevil, Fantastic Four, all that. So while people are paying, say your favorite, I was talking to Ben about this, he's picked up Green Goblin comics, and he says he'll never get the first one because first appearance of Green Goblin, like a high grade one, you're looking at, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 kind of thing. And I still have my I used to get the invoices from Mile High Comics, and I got a high grade one from Mile High Comics. And what was it? I think it was like $60 or something. And it's BF, so very fine is what they graded. So it was like, comics like that. It was, I saved a lot of money doing it that way, getting all the older stuff, all the 60s and 70s stuff first. But I never hit the bullet on buying like $102 comics, because that's crazy for an Amazing Spider-Man #1 for $300. I'm like, that's way too much. I'm not going to pay for that. Whereas now they're like whatever, 8, 9, 10 grand for a shit one. So that's the frustrating bit about that.
I mean, like it's comics, their value, it's insane how much a comic costs. And it's even funnier to think that it was only 25 years ago that they were so many thousands of dollars less. Like, I cannot imagine getting the first appearance of Green Goblin. First of all, I can't imagine coming across one, like, period. Like, I don't know, like, just the first appearance of Green Goblin, I'd love to have it. He's by far my favorite villain. But to find one for like, for $60, that is, it's madness. You're a bit of an entrepreneur there, then, Mr. Brett Owen. You're thinking like a smart man back then.
Well, I wish I'd always stuck with that, because I did used to buy a few keys and kind of sell them on. But the way I looked at it is, I could have buy all these key issues, keep them, and then to resell them later. But I might have, you know, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 worth of stock, if that makes sense. So like, you know, say I did buy 5 Green Goblins back then, you know, that's $500-$600 at the time that I might not have had. And with that money, I could be buying other comics. So in a way, I'd wish I'd stockpiled a lot more than I did. And I only really the one that I've kind of done it with was Iron Man 55, the first appearance of Thanos. So I saw Avengers on the opening, well, previous screening, Avengers 1, and they have like the final scene is Thanos after credits. So I'm sitting there at 2 a.m. in the foyer of the Marion local cinema, and like my partner's trying to drag me out, the cleaners are trying to drag me out, and I'm there on eBay, Mile High Comics, and that buying every copy of Iron Man 55 I can find. You know, and I'm picking them up for like, you know, 50, 60, $70. Yeah, and a few years later, I was selling them for like probably with a 0 on that. So instead of $70, I sold it for 700. So it's really,
even just a few years ago. I mean, I can imagine after Avengers Endgame, what Thanos's first appearance would be in stock wise. That'd be amazing.
Well, that's it. Like, you could look at it as I kind of tapped out a bit too early, and I thought, well, you know, I'll sell them now, they're worth a lot. But then, you know, I'm sure the guy that sold the highest graded Action Comics #1 in 1988 or whenever it was, he sold it for like $20,000, and it sold at auction like a couple of years back for, was it like 3.2 million or something like that?
It's one of those things where it's like you can't really kick yourself in, you know, you can't really give yourself too much
at the time. It's the right thing to do, so kind of thing. So
yeah, and plus that's like $600 on like profit almost. Like
that's what it is.
So
it goes back into the hobby. So it wasn't like I used that $600 to, you know, go and put new tires on my car, which I guess is something more practical.
Probably more responsible, but you know,
more responsible. It was more like that $600 I can go out and buy. So I don't need 2 copies of Iron Man 55. Why don't I buy 56, 57, 58 up to 100 with that same money, kind of thing? So
you have got a very big collection. Could you estimate how much you actually have in your comic collection, just off the top of your head, like, you know, to the nearest 1,000?
To the nearest 1,000. Well, I go off. So I put Silver Age comics. I put 100 in a box, and anything that's, you know, higher than 15-cent comics, so anything from mid-70s up. I put 125 in a box. So I try to go. I just round it to 100 in a box just for the ones that aren't full, and then times that by how many boxes I have, which is currently around 240 odd. So probably a few more actually, because I've got
100 comics per box.
Yeah.
240 boxes. You're thinking.
So yeah, around 24,000 comics. Plus, then I have all my random boxes, like the ones that I'm sorting now. These are my inbox. I don't know if you guys can see what's in here. So I got there, some more there, some more there, and more there. They're my ones that have to be bagged and boarded and resorted.
I have a pittance compared to what you have. I have, geez, okay, cool. Because Sam, he jokes, you know, that we barely have as many comics as Sam, me and Ashraf combined. But you make Sam's collection look like nothing. Like, that's insane. And I mean, you've been collecting, obviously, trying to hold on to them since like the mid-90s. So like that's a while.
So a lot longer. Sam's only he's just over 30, so I started collecting when he was like 2 or 3 years old. So
well, his collection
bit of a head start.
He had to restart as well because he
that's right.
Yeah, when he came over to Adelaide from Tasmania, most of his comics got waterlogged, so he had to start again. So his collection's quite fresh. So he's trying to catch up. You know, he's had way less.
The comic I don't have, the little bastard.
Oh, which comic?
He's got Amazing Spider-Man 3.
The Doc Ock one, right?
The Doc Ock's the only one I don't have.
Is that the only one that you don't have in like the 10s?
I've got 2, and then I've got 4 up to the one that came out last week. So I've got
Wow. So you're missing number 1 and number 3.
1 and 3. I'll never get a number 1. I've come to terms with that, but I have the Golden Record reprints. I don't know if you know them. The late 60s, I think 69. They released like proper copies of them all. The only difference is they don't have the price, like the 10-cent price. They had 12-cent price that was on. So that's how I've got my Fantastic Four one, my Journey into Mystery 83, which is the first Thor, and my Spider-Man, my X-Men number 1s are all the reprints from the 1969 Golden Records. So, yeah, but Spider-Man 3, I don't have it. I've got a couple of reprints, but I don't have the original. Stats for Sam will always hold that above me. So
that's all this Adelaide Comic and Toy Fair is. It's just a way for you to hopefully get someone showing up with Amazing Spider-Man 3, right? That's all it is.
If you ever want tables again, give me that comic. So.
Well, comics aren't the only thing that you collect. It's the Adelaide Comic and Toy Fair, and I know that you have a few toys in there. First of all, what like lines do you collect, or is it just things from your childhood, or things that catch your eye, or are there like specific things that you're looking for when it comes to collecting like toys and action figures?
So I collect a lot of lines from my childhood. A lot of properties that from my childhood that I didn't have the toys at the time, or very few of. So, I was too young for the Star Wars toys when the Star Wars movie comes out. So I've got collecting a lot of
the Kenner stuff.
Yeah, so like the vintage stuff. So from 70s up to mid 80s. So I've gone back. I'm getting a lot of them. Which I enjoy certain characters and stuff like that. I use them for a lot of novelty things as well. Like instead of getting full stuff and having it all on a shelf, like I just scatter stuff around the house, and not having a proper like kind of man cave kind of thing, is I have that's kind of the thing that I have. Like we were just packing then, and I pulled the clock down, and I've had Spider-Man, Amigo Spider-Man, just sitting on top of the clock since I got it at the Toy Fair a while back. So
how old's that bad boy? So what's he from?
So Migo's like a toy company that had in the 70s. You can see he's actually he's got like a cloth. This is a bad one. He's done the splits and ripped it.
It's almost like an old school version of like what a Mezco is today in a weird way.
Well, it's kind of just imagine a Barbie doll that's instead of got blonde hair, she's got a Spider-Man mask, and her clothes are a Spider-Man costume, because that's kind of what she's got. What they've got there. I've actually got. There's one box somewhere here that boxed up, but I could get it quickly.
So let's see if he can't find it in a box. So for those who don't know, you're currently in the midst of moving, which is why we don't have a shot of your lovely comic collection or anything behind you.
Instead of everything being on the nice shelves we've got behind me, all I've got left is a Dino-itis. And everything else is sadly in boxes like this. But I do have my. So that's they're all kind of wrapped up. You can't see them. That's some Toy Biz.
Is that Toy Biz Goblin?
Actually, that's a Green Goblin. That's yours, isn't it? Your favorite.
That is my favorite villain by far. That's really cool, actually.
The Magneto, Supernaturals. And this is that same figure, but a carded one. So that's, kind of what they look like.
That's slick, especially for being like from like what, the 70s or 80s, would you say?
It'd be mid 70s. It's copyright 79. So, but
they do tend to
really want
copyright
me to blow your mind. This is something I bought years and years ago and forgot I had.
You just forgot casually that you had something mind-blowing in your collection.
Forgot casually, and then found it when I was moving. Because it was fragile, I kind of wanted to keep it wrapped up and never put it on display.
You've spent all week packing, and now we're just getting you to undo it all of it, aren't we?
So it's Migo once again, and it's actually a giant version.
That did
him.
not look as big as it did until you pulled up the smaller toy. Wow.
So still sealed. Yeah.
That's
So faded a bit
awesome.
on the front, but yeah. And it was with the eBay invoice. It was like $60 or something I paid for it. So it was still in the box.
60
So
bucks for that. That's pretty wicked.
yeah, but the invoice was like 2001 or something. So when I lived with my
Oh,
parents, I used to buy stuff and then there was nowhere to put it. So I just kind of put it in a box and sat there for 15 years or something before I found it.
2001. Damn, that's
Yeah.
just to have that casually sitting around and be like, oh, well, here's this thing that people would pay an arm and a leg for these days.
I don't actually know what they go for these. It's probably not as much as you think. Probably a sealed one, maybe 300 or something. So
Still, that's a lot of money for an old toy.
yeah. But yeah, I just love the little amigos. I think they're so much more fun than I don't have any other action figures around. But what else do I have? Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, that's the kind of toys I collect, like Amigo, like that, the older vintage stuff, the Star Wars. I've just boxed them up bloody yesterday. I'm trying to complete Bucky O'Hare. I don't know if you'd know that. 89.
Yeah, he's
The
the green
TV show,
green
cartoon.
rabbit, right? Yep.
Yeah, so
He's not this guy.
no, that's the
This is
Star Wars guy. I
That's the
forget his
Star Wars
name.
guy, Jackson,
Yeah.
who came out around the same time as Bucky O'Hare. So that's the main reason I know who Bucky O'Hare is. Yeah,
Yeah, so
I know it. I'm sorry.
trying to no, I don't know what the box is. Actually, I do.
Oh, and he's gonna go grab it too. The mad lad.
I'm just gonna have to unpack everything that So I've been collecting a few. Like I've just been buying. That's them there. Bucky, stuff like that. And then I only needed one more. And then I was in Lobo's Collectibles in Melbourne a few weeks ago, and that's the last one I need. So I bought it on card, and now I've decided I have to get them all on card.
Yeah.
So I finally finished collecting them all, except for a lot of the weapons are missing because they're quite hard to find. And then I decided that I'm just going to get them all on card because it's probably easier than trying to find all the weapons. So
Lobo's Collectibles is a name that has come up a number of times. We've been talking to Sam about like where to go in Melbourne because I'm going in December for the Good Things Festival. So that's a place that like it sounds like that's a great place to shop if you're into these kinds of things.
well, if I actually while I was there, I found a Grail item there, and
Okay.
I begged Sarah to let me. It was one of the reasons actually I wanted to go there because I looked up the address on Google Maps, and you know how they have like a few pictures of what's there.
Yep.
In
You
the
saw
background.
something.
Yeah. So the other thing I'm trying to collect at the moment with Bucky O'Hare is in Humanoids. It's like a cartoon from the mid '80s. There was a comic of it too. They're weird kind of monsters and stuff. I've got a few boxed up, but I'll stop unboxing everything that I've packed. But they had a Grail item that I thought I'd never get one because all the loose ones I've seen, they have fangs, and they're always snapped off. And it's actually right here because I don't want to pack it. I'm just going to carry it in the car when I move because it's so fragile. So this is Tendril, and he is like, yeah. So he's a monster from Inhumanoids.
He
They're
looks
pretty
like
much like
Man-Thing. He looks like Man-Thing.
kind of, yeah. He's got like the arms and that. But yeah, to find one in this condition because they've got rubber bands in the joints where they snap. These are the things I talk about that they fall off, and they actually released longer ones for the first wave, and the second ones they actually made them with shorter because they snapped off so easily.
Right.
So just being one of the long ones and them unbroken is like a double whammy on how fucking awesome it is to have it.
Yeah.
And like I was taking photos to one of the toy groups to compare it, and I used the Pit Builder figure, which is the biggest builder figure there is, which was up to about here. And then I had the Dino-Riders T-Rex that even with the bit on the top was up to about here. I had a Rancor, like the Star Wars Rancor to compare it to, the monster, which came up to about here on it. So it's pretty big. Like, we had Spider-Man there, and
Yeah, he's a big
standing
boy.
up.
I feel a little I always feel like pulling off like one of my Sentinels or something just to sort of not feel intimidated by this
Well,
the
that'd
size of
probably
that
be it.
thing.
You should actually probably sell me one of those Sentinels too.
You've actually said that like I think 3 or 4 times, and every time you do, it's like I wonder what eBay prices are for them. They're about they're still close to it.
Do it at recommended retail, I reckon. So no, that was one thing I wish I had actually bought a couple of to resell, to be one of those dickheads, but to pay for itself. So
I originally had 5 on pre-order. I had to go down to 3, and I'm glad I did because I actually needed help fitting them in the car. One of the workers at the time, the Zing Pop Culture I work at, because I work at Zing Pop Culture now. Well, the Zing Pop Culture I work at, those Sentinels, I borrowed my mum's work car because it's a hatchback, so there was more room. And one of the workers actually had to come with me just to make sure that I could get there safely and load them in and have some help with that. They are massive, so I'm glad I downsized because I wasn't probably going to be able to fit 5 into a single car. But in saying that, I also kind of wish I didn't because they didn't have any real stock left over. I talked to the big man who runs it all. He was like he wanted one and he didn't even get one because he didn't pre-order it because he was confident maybe they'd have some stock left over, and they didn't. So like those Sentinels were, they had stock.
That's HasLab's probably best one, isn't it? That's probably Unicron and the Jabba's sail barge.
Yeah, that was a pretty. Zing didn't get that one, funnily enough. I was talking because this is the guy who helped set up some of the deals for it. Zing didn't get that, but they got the Unicron, they got Sentinel, they got Galactus, they've got Star Saber, who's another Transformer. I'm hoping they get the next one because as of the time of recording this, so we're going to immediately date this, Hasbro have announced that this Friday, so Saturday for us, they'll announce the next HasLab and it's Ghost Rider themed. So I'm thinking it's the Hell Charger.
So yeah, because it won't be the bike, it'll be the car, won't it?
Yeah, because the bike they could probably sell for like 150, 200 easy, but the car would take.
Because they've never done the car, they've done plenty of the bikes, as far as I know. And to be Marvel Legends scale, it's going to have to be pretty big. So
I don't think you'd realize how big a 1/12 scale car is until you look at a 1/12 scale car and go, "Oh, that's like almost a whole shelf."
Yeah. So they get pretty crazy, some of the stuff they do, which is good. And I think it's good that the way they do it, how they set it up like a Kickstarter, and so they can get the backing to actually do it. And
well, it helps toys that would not otherwise exist actually be brought to life. Like that's pretty cool.
Yeah, because I think the Sentinel is crazy. Like I've never actually seen one in real life, but I've seen a Unicron, the planet from Transformers. I don't know. And it is freaking insane, huge. Like
I have it sitting next to me, right?
Oh, you've got one, do you?
I've got Unicron sitting right next to me, right? There he is. This is not going to do any justice looking at him as he is, right? But I just want to give you an idea. I thought I could fit him onto. There's a piece of rubbish there that's going to make me look horrible. I hate that. I got one piece of rubbish. That's the only thing wrong in my room at the moment. The Unicron here, he's massive, and I thought, oh, I'd be able to fit him, up in the corner somewhere, right? Like on a shelf. I cleared a whole shelf for him. No, because if you look back here, it's actually the base to hold him up is actually pushing into the curtain. So the only reason I can fit him there is because my window digs in a little bit. So he's literally, his stand is basically touching my window.
Yeah,
he's huge.
They're insane. Like. Yeah, and even Transforms, it's still like it's not as high, but it's being a planet, it's round. So
and the rings, like the rings around the planet, they just give it so much. Like I'm transforming this bad boy. I have only done it, I think, a few times.
How long did it take?
For me, I recorded myself. The first time it took an hour.
So, you can see how big he is. Like he'd come up to your waist, kind of thing. There, like standing next to it.
Come up to the average person's waist, I'd say.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Which is insane. Like when you think you get a give it to a 6-year-old kid and it's the same size.
Well, that's the thing. The Sentinels are slightly taller, and the Galactus is even taller than these guys.
Yeah.
So Galactus, I think, is 32 inches. It's honestly, it's like Galactus thing comes out next year, like start of next year.
Yeah.
I have no idea where I'm putting him. I'm in a bad place for this one. I'll figure it out, but yeah, there are some big toys coming through in the future, and it's insane. Hey, you know what? Maybe you'll luck out. Maybe there is someone at the toy fair this year who has a HasLab Sentinel.
Yeah, but I don't want to pay $2,000 for it. I want to pay $700 or the price that was.
You want to
Well,
pay
yeah.
retail price for something that is, honestly, if you can find someone selling it at retail price, like, Godspeed to you, man. That's impressive. I was going to say, speaking of the toy fair,
Yeah,
you've been going for 8 years. You started off at the Mawson Lakes,
the Dutch club there. Yep.
the Dutch Club. Were you doing one a year initially when it first started?
Yeah, so I did the first one in August, and then kind of like, oh, okay, and I put in the flyer first annual, just because I thought I'll do another one, like, if this goes well. And then so I kind of like, well, I'm going to have to do one in August again. But then I worked out it's better to do it during the school holidays, because the next venue I went to, Christian Brothers College in the CBD of Adelaide, I worked out that I wanted something bigger, like a gymnasium, something like that. And they used to hold the record fairs there, the Adelaide record fairs, a few years back. So I got the idea from someone that helped organize them. And yeah, went there to book it, and they're like, oh, we've only got this time free. And it was because they use them during the school term.
Yep.
So I worked out, okay, then I'll always do it in October, because it's always school holidays then. And it'll always be free. And then I thought, well, I did the first one at CBC and it worked so well. And then everyone's like, oh, you should do more of these. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess. And then so I decided, twice a year. So the third one became, so what was that, 2017. I did an April and an October one at CBC. So that was good. And it grew from there. So I've done 2 years every year since, except obviously COVID, messed with everything.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that, because, like, if you were doing 2 every single year from 2017, so 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, you couldn't do April, but you did end up doing October, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so like I was saying, I'd planned them quite a bit in advance. So I'd already booked the venue for April 2020. A lot of the vendors had always said, yep, they're in January. I'd started, booking people in properly, organizing the tables and insurance and stuff like this. And then I'm like, what's this corona shit they're talking about on the radio? And then it slowly got worse and worse. And then I was like, I don't think this is going to happen. And then, things started getting real crazy. So, unfortunately, I think it was only about 3 weeks away from it, 4 weeks, pretty close to it. It was in March.
It was a month in March. I remember that specifically, because it was the week before I was going to go to Download Festival in Melbourne. So 1 week before, I had to try and get refunds for, like, my hotels and everything.
Yeah,
So.
And then, so unfortunately I had to put the message out there. That it was cancelled due to, pretty much COVID stuff. And then I think lockdown started happening in the eastern states. And so it was probably good that I didn't do it. One, for public safety, like everyone getting in there, at a time where something like that's running rampant, it could have a massive outbreak, and that's not good. And so ended that. And luckily here in Australia, everyone was pretty strict with COVID restrictions, and being an island, we're kind of separate from the world. And luckily, the October one could go ahead. The COVID cases around Australia were quite low.
Yeah, it was very like compared to like places with similar populations, we did very, very well for ourselves, especially Western Australia, who basically locked themselves completely down. Like we
Yeah,
had one of our neighboring states, like almost half of our country essentially was just locked down and no
yeah. I
one was
mean,
getting in or out. So
Australia shuts down the rest of the world, and Western Australia shuts down the rest of Australia. So it was, yeah, pretty good for them. Not as good for the eastern states. They had a bit rougher, being bigger
a little.
populations. But yeah, we were pretty lucky here in Adelaide, and yeah, so the October 2021 could go ahead. Um, and yeah, we obviously did the COVID restrictions. We had less people in the venue, and counted who went in, and spread stuff out a bit more. We even had the line was down the road. It was one of the first events that had happened since COVID kind of come around, and we had a line that was bigger than the people in the venue. Like a 2-hour wait to get in and stuff. So it was pretty crazy.
People clearly were like wanting something, anything, and if
Yeah,
anything, it's like it's in a way, you missing one was almost made up for immediately because people were like, "Oh, there's something going on now." Like you've
yeah.
almost capitalized on that in a weird way. Just
Well,
good
it was
timing.
sad because like I really wanted to let everyone in, and um, a lot of people would have. Well, there was a lot of stories that we'd get messages on Facebook and stuff like that. People were getting there, waiting for an hour in line, and just doing little stuff. Like, I've got a kid, he wants to get out of the sun and, whatever. So, yeah, unfortunately, a lot of people would have got excited for it and had to miss out. But yeah, that's the same thing. We were counting everyone that came in through the door as they did. And, like it's another one of those public safety things that, yeah, we could have rammed in, 1,000+ people or whatever, but it's not how the world was. The
Yeah.
police even showed up and walked around. Sarah talked with them. She did well there, explaining we had our COVID plan and all that stuff. So they were happy with what we set up. So that was good to hear that we were doing the right thing too. We weren't just winging it kind of thing. So yeah, but
So
that's COVID.
the venue you were running out of, because obviously, long wait times for people with COVID and just the general. There were a few other things in that one. Like it was almost a bit of a very testing event for you because there was a couple of issues that popped up that year. What
Yeah.
do you mind
So
like what happened? Because it was kind of like just everything all at once just kind of came at you.
so that was probably the worst fair we've had. And even if COVID wasn't a thing, it was still the worst fair we've had. So what happened was, first of all, someone owns that building, so it's up to them what they want to do with it. But so this was at a new venue. We'd left Christian Brothers College to move to another venue. It was 3 basketball courts instead of 1. It's obviously a lot larger. We were filling the 3 basketball courts. And the first one we sold 2 courts worth, second one 3 courts worth, and then the third one, which was this one, we worked out where we could put more tables, and lined up everything, measured out. I always like having massive aisles, so I worked out the massive aisles, and there were stands there that we moved to allow more people because it sold out straight away, and I didn't want to have to turn people away that were enjoying the event so much and love selling there, and local artists and stuff, that this was an outlet for them. So I booked it out, sold out pretty quickly, and then we've given the floor plan to the manager that we always do, and we had the previous ones, and a new manager knew kind of like there was 3 of them in the group, and this guy, he ran the 2 that are in Melbourne, and then had the one in Adelaide where we were, and he'd come over because his partner was the manager there. And anyway, long story short, we were setting up the day before the fair. The fair was on a Saturday. On the Friday night, we were there setting up the tables, and then he's come out, started yelling at Sarah, brought her to tears. I've rocked up, what the fuck are you doing? Sorry about language,
No,
but
you're all
that
good.
kind of moment it was. And so he decided that he didn't want anything on the courts. So we had 3 basketball courts that we weren't allowed to put anything on. So it had gone from having, so the court layout says we have a court, basketball court, so we have a circle around it, and then we have an island in the middle of each court. And the islands, I'm not sure what you get per island, maybe 25 tables or something like that. So he'd come in then like literally 12 hours before the doors opened and said, right, you're not putting anything on the court. So we've run this by you, you've said it's yes. And he goes, no, you're not doing it. I don't want anything, not even, and I explained, he goes, no, I don't want to do it. You'll scratch my court, you'll damage it. If you damage it, you can pay $10,000 to get it resurfaced. So, so on the Friday night, the day before the fair, I've had to go through and do kind of like a last on, first off thing. I gave up my stool. I haven't had one since. Gave up my stool for that. Asked anyone that had more than 3 tables if they could give some up to other people. And we cancelled about 34 people. Took tables away from some of the other people that had offered, which was good of them, so others could attend. Then we tried to find other spots where we could put tables in. So pretty much was the worst one because I had to cancel so many people.
It's really nice to hear too, and it really reinforces the idea, you'll say, the community that you were trying to build, because it clearly, people offering tables being like, because I know there were a few people that were, they weren't happy about it, but they weren't mad at you. I know, because I talked to a few of them who were like, they couldn't, they had tables and they had them taken away. I think Ian, who runs Gamma Rays Comics, is one of them. He couldn't have his table that year after that happened. I think he might have been one of them.
Pretty bad, and I felt for these people. I'm sitting there in tears, this has ruined my event. And I thought that this is going to do, damage that I can't come back from. And there were a few people there, like new people that, it was their first one. That I said, you can either, we can either do a refund or we can put you down as coming to the October one. I will have a new venue. And a lot of them said, no, I'll just have a refund, and then never heard from them again, I think, because, so it's pretty devastating then that we'd given people the wrong impressions for what we kind of stand for. And then
I mean, it's not like there was anything you could do, because this guy rocks up at the last minute and tells you no. Like, not even like, if you've planned this months in advance, like, it's like there was every opportunity for them to contact you and go, hey, you know what, can we just get something straight on this one? And then you wouldn't have booked all those people.
Yeah, because it was either like he said, you don't put anything on there or you don't have the venue at all. So I couldn't really fight him because it was the day before. It wasn't like I could find somewhere different or anything like that. But it was just like we were emailing people. I was trying to find them on Facebook to send messages to them because we don't have phone numbers. So it's not like an immediate contact too. So it was, pretty crazy. So not happy, but you always have these things and you learn from them and, you grow better. And I think that was good because I had outgrown that venue and was looking for somewhere else. It was just the COVID that kind of made it a bit harder. And then from there, we moved to St. Clair, which, like you said, is 5 basketball courts. There's a 6th one that I haven't used yet, hidden in another room, but it's the best venue, and there's nowhere bigger than it in Adelaide except for the showgrounds, the 2 main pavilions. When you open them up, it's the only other venue that's bigger than it. So I'm pretty happy to hang there. So
it's one of those things where it's like it forced your hand to have to find a new venue anyway. You didn't have a choice because there's no way you were going to go back to that. And clearly, what we see is that there are more than enough people willing to go to these events still, even in light of what happened the previous year, because I think the Toy Fair has literally only gotten bigger and better since then.
Yeah, dramatic increase, attendance with every fair. I think and it's a variety as well. I think that's what makes it so good. Like I was saying before, with having Lego and comics and all that, it's the dad's using the excuse, I'm going to take the kids, because he really wants to go there and go through the old He-Man toys that he loved when he was a kid, kind of thing. So it's it brings families along, which obviously is what we're kind of aiming for, is kids to come along and have fun, hence the Lego
absolutely.
exhibition and whatnot. So that's really good. Yeah.
You do also have, and we mentioned this before, artist alley, like the sort of this artist alley area. You get a few local artists, a few book writers, if I'm not mistaken, as well. How did that start? Like, when was that first sort of as an idea? Did you pitch it, or did they pitch it to you? Is it like the Lego group that we were talking about before?
Well, it was with the first one that I had at the Mawson Lakes venue. Like I said, it was only planned a few weeks. I kind of sent a thing to everyone who wants to come, and everyone kind of knew a guy that knew a guy. And a few artists come along, and that's what I kind of wanted, because you have the artist alley at the big conventions and stuff like that. Had a few artists come there, and then a few more came to more and more. And I did used to have kind of an artist alley, and then I realized I had one at Martin at the previous venue, and I noticed that the store, that people would walk past all the stalls from the vendors, and then because I had all the artists in one spot, quite often people would see, oh yeah, they're just comic books or artwork or whatever. I want to look at video games, so I'm not going to go down there. And I thought that wasn't fair, because I want everyone to be like in a flow where to make everyone walk past everyone, so they get the same kind of experience and that. So what I did when I went to St. Clair was I put the artists in the middle island.
Yep.
So that kind of makes people, they're forced, not forced, but it's in the flow of them walking, so that the artists do get their chance, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
so the
because
artists, people do walk past them, they see, wow, look, that's, they've drawn that character that I really love. Like, I'm going to buy, a sticker, or, they can draw me as a zombie, so I'm going to get that done, kind of thing. Or, like you said, with books, people read books. You have people doing comics and the art and the writing, so they can sell them. And I think that's what I wanted to do, was help them, because the big conventions, they're paying hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And, for $40, you can set up a table and sell your comic that you literally paid for yourself and make nothing of. But you get that kind of, the interaction is what the feedback I get from the artists is, they're actually, people are stopping and looking at their things and talking to them, and they're enjoying it, and they're seeing people enjoy their artwork and their passion. And I think that's kind of like the exact thing that I wanted to achieve from this, if that makes sense. Like having that available to them and to the community, and that's why things like the Lego Club, I don't charge anything for them. Stuart Blair that comes along, sets up the comic exhibition with a lot of his European and the older comic expo there that they do, and some of the sci-fi. I could be greedy and sell those tables off to vendors and get money or something, but I would rather have an experience for people that go there to see and do kind of things. So that's why I have them, and some of the clubs that come as well, like the Ghostbuster, South Australian Ghostbuster clubs that come there. They're a charity, so I'm not going to charge a charity to have a table there. They're raising money for kids' well-being. So yeah, so that's kind of like I wanted to build the community, and I think that's what Artist Alley kind of, I hope that I can do for them. We're having, I think it's about 32 artists this one. The last one was about 18.
So you've got more artists coming up in the next one then. Yeah,
so they're really it's obviously they're happy with what I'm doing there, and they're spreading the word amongst themselves to come check it out. So
it's always great when you can help a community grow, especially like an artist community like that. Like with local artists, it's always so hard to get people to pay attention and look at it and go like, no, genuinely, like we have got some amazing artists. We've got great writers, great illustrators, great painters. craftsmen who do some amazing things. Like even just I met a man named Jack who runs I think it's called Project H2.
Yep, that's the
Yep.
one.
Yeah, I met him. He was just across the way from where I was, and like he was a really cool dude. He makes like handcrafted stuff like Dungeons and Dragons and stuff. He does wedding plaques for some people. It's just so cool seeing a variety of artists too. It's not just one kind. You walk through like these artist alleys and you're like, oh my God, wow, there's woodwork, there's painting, there's illustration.
Hmm.
It's
Well,
incredible.
that's it. Like it all comes in all different forms. Like like you said, there's he had like some Lord of the Rings. He had a Captain America shield that he'd made himself. Like and then next to it, you had someone that had Captain America Lego, and then Captain America comic, and then a Captain America Marvel Legends. So it's like he did fit in, even though he's doing something completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's why I try to bring in. There's a lot of people that, like you said, woodwork. There's a guy that makes like boxes and stuff like that. Like and he focused on Pokemon, so he has that. So there's a lot of Pokemon things there. People that make jewelry and stuff like that. And they're all based on characters from TV or comics and whatnot. So
And like
yeah,
with this kind of community too, like there's always going to be someone who sees that and goes, "Oh wow, that's something I really want." Like there's always going to be one person who walks through those doors and goes, "That like I wasn't thinking that, or I wasn't expecting that, but right there,
yeah.
that's so cool."
But I think that
So,
that's what it is too. Like having such a variety is makes it so you liked comics, and like I said, you go there and you see, wow, that's really cool, or I had that when I was a kid. That it's not just walking into Big W and getting the current run of Lego or Batman toys. It's actually, well, actually, I had that Batman toy when I was a kid in 1989, so I'm going to grab that. That's means so much more to me than something you can just get off eBay for $5 or whatever. So
and being a vendor, like I sold at the Toy Fair for the first time last time in the April 2022 one. Even if people don't buy it, it's just the ability to have that discussion, that
yeah,
talk with like-minded people, which is really it's actually kind of interesting in a way. Working at the Toy Fair gave me experience and prepared me for my time working at Zing Pop Culture, because it basically is what I just do now daily. But that community experience, the difference being that with Zing Pop Culture, there is a more general audience. With this, it's a much more, I don't want to say hardcore, but there are people who have these weird things that they're looking for, just, and it's always so interesting to see someone walk over and go, oh man, Transformers is like, and then Toys like, oh, what are you looking for? Well, I'm also looking for, and then like, this obscure 80s cartoon or a Japanese anime I never heard of before, or this movie that I'm like, whoa, that's a thing. Like, it's just so cool to hear about these things that exist and expand my knowledge on nerdy stuff as well.
well, that's it. Like that's what I love about the day. Like it sucks because I'm needed in 1,000 different places and always getting pulled. Like we've got walkie talkies now. I get called over the walkie talkie, got to be here, and running and helping with stuff. And we've got a great team that do things, but there's literally so many things to do on the day now. But that's literally my favorite part of the day is, because I've got to know so many like people here, like vendors, and made friends and stuff like that. That it's not just, you don't just see them at the fair, you see them outside. And it's great. Like it's like a massive catch up. You've got a group of 100 150 people that are all really close, and the love of toys or the love of comics. And I could just spend the whole day going from store to store, having massive chats, and buying cool things. And I think that's another bit about it, is that what makes it so good is that you can go there, and like you said, you were talking to the guy across from you. You were there with Sam and Ashraf, the other guys, and you just have fun. Like you were next to Toy Power Podcast, another
Yeah,
Adelaide podcast. So
just having a chat to those lads as they come through as well. That was cool.
yeah, so and that's what it is. Like you get to meet people, and just some wonderful people out there in the community, and obviously have the same those same tastes and things as you, and the same passions. So.
Well, look, I don't think there was anything like an Adelaide Comic and Toy Fair, but especially not here in Adelaide. I don't think anywhere in Australia. It's genuinely I know, especially someone like Sam. Sam gets genuinely excited for it. Like I think Christmas has lost its luster. This is the new Christmas for guys like Sam, and
It's better presents. Yeah.
I'm genuinely inclined to agree. Well, look, I think we've said all that we really need to. I think people have found a lot about you today, and you know what? If you haven't experienced Adelaide Comic and Toy Fair just yet, there is another one around the corner. Brett, do you want to give them the details?
So come on down to Adelaide Comic and Toy Fair, 103 Woodville Road, Woodville. It's at the St. Clair Rec Centre. It's October 3rd, which is the up-and-coming Labor Day public holiday Monday. Doors, we have pre-entry tickets from 9, so you can head online and grab one of them. Get in early, get to all the grails and the bargains before everyone else. We've got tote bags made up, which is a new thing this year. So put all your swag in, so that go out, buy all the toys, chuck them in there. Otherwise, yeah, doors at 10 o'clock for the rest of the public. And we'll start winding things up around 3:30. So yeah, get on down. That's St. Clair, 3rd of October, Monday. So it's a public holiday. You can't say, oh, I've got to work or anything like that.
Unless you work at one of those silly little OTRs or one of those constant places that always. But you'll have time before.
You've got plenty of time to change the shift.
Come on, you've got time. Come down.
Kids are on school holidays, public holiday. They're like, oh, I want to go do something. Get out the house. From what I hear, or I'm just assuming, the weather's going to be really good too. So you're going to want to head down and check it out.
It's just something to do as well. I was actually talking to someone at Zing, and I said, because they were new in Adelaide, and they're like, is there anything to do in October? I'm like, well, actually, funnily enough. And she's like, oh, that's brilliant. My little brother's coming down October. We're trying to find something to do on the public holiday. I'm like, there you go. You're not stuck in the house all day. The kids aren't stuck in the house all day, and I guarantee they are going to have a good time.
So yeah, everything's on the website. So AdelaideComicandToyFair.com. You'll be able to find it all out there. Otherwise, we're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. But like we said, there's nothing on Twitter. So, but yeah, check out the website. Get all the info there. It's photos. You can check out what we're doing down there, the Lego and the vendors and everything. So. Yeah, it's good.
And if you want to check out, I did a vlog of the last one. If you want to check out what my experience from my perspective on this channel that this interview's on, if you're still not sure and you want to see what it looks like, I'd say also head there. I think I've linked everything, all the social media for Adelaide Comic and Toy Fair and that as well. So yeah. Oh, hang on, we got an intruder. Is this Loki? Was it?
Loki's my other cat. This is Zelda.
So I'm assuming Legend of Zelda. Yep.
I'll put her down. Yeah.
Well, we almost got through the whole video without one of the cats coming back.
I know, right?
So close. Well, you know what? We'll take it as a sign. I think we'll end it there. Thank you so much for joining me on this one.
No problem. Thanks for having me. And yeah, hope to see you at the fair and hope to see people out there down there. Check it out.
All right. Look after yourselves, everyone. See ya.
See ya.